Hey everybody, it's Nancy Norbeck with this week's Creative Pep Talk. And this week, I want to say something that's going to sound simple, but it's not easy. And that's this. Stop making it so hard. I feel pretty confident when I say you're probably making it harder than it needs to be, because most of us do that most of the time. And honestly, a lot of what I've talked about on all of these pep talks since the very beginning are things to help you make it easier, things to help you stop making it so hard. Being a perfectionist makes your work harder. Going too fast makes your work harder. Not knowing who your audience is makes your work harder. There's a theme. But here's the thing. A lot of us don't realize how hard we make it on ourselves. So what I'm challenging you to do this week is to start paying attention to how hard things are. Could they be easier? Is there an easier way to do it? Is the way that you've always done it the best way? It might be making it harder than it needs to be. Sometimes the way that we make it hard on ourselves is putting pressure on ourselves, like perfectionism, or not giving ourselves permission to do something we want to do. And I'm not trying to say that everything we ever do should come super simply to us as if it's a gift from the gods, because that's not how life works. But I'll give you an example from my own experience. I have, over the course of not quite a year, been doing a whole lot of voice therapy because I've been having issues with losing my voice way more frequently than anybody should lose their voice. And so I finally went and had it checked out. And one of the things that I learned is that a lot of the muscles in here, in my throat, were working way, way, way harder than they should be. And that may not sound like that's necessarily a bad thing, but it is, because it creates all sorts of tension. It means that your voice is not working as easily as it should. I mean, think about it. If you aren't dealing with a problem like this and you think about how much effort it takes to talk to someone or sing along with the radio, you probably would say none. And to be fair, I would have said that too before I started voice therapy, because I hadn't realized how difficult it had become over time because I was working so much harder than I needed to. And the reasons for this are myriad and fascinating on their own, but that's for a different conversation. But it's so hard to notice sometimes that we're actually making things harder than they need to be. And what I know from this is also that when you try to go back to making it easier, when you're used to doing it the hard way, it can feel really strange, because now you're used to the hard way, and the easy way seems like you need to work at it because you have to think, relax these muscles, or do it this other way that you're not as used to because it's easier. Being accustomed to doing something is a powerful thing. That's why habits work the way they do, whether they are good or bad. So it can be tough to tell if you're making it harder on yourself than you need to, and it can be tough to get used to doing it an easier way. Normally what I say is to do whatever works for you. There's no right way and there's no wrong way. There is the way that works for you. And I still think that that's true. But I think that a lot of us could make things easier on ourselves than we do. As a matter of course, in our creative work, putting too much pressure on ourselves, having the expectation that everything we're going to make is going to be the new greatest thing ever made. Good grief, that's a ton of pressure. Thinking about it like a kid playing with crayons or finger paints or building with Legos or something like that, and letting yourself feel that kind of playful energy makes it a whole lot easier. But you can't do that until you lower the expectations. You nuke the perfectionism, which is a terrible way to put that, because usually that is a slow process and you have to get used to it. But you know what I mean, I hope. Dealing with any of these things, all of this pressure, all of these impressions, all of the perceived need to do something that other people will like, that people think is normal, it weighs on us. It makes life more difficult. So there are lots of ways that this could play out. that it could look in your life. And I don't have time to go into all of those, and I wouldn't be able to identify all of them anyway. So what I'm going to suggest you do is just start asking yourself, how can I make this easier? How can I make this more fun? How can I relax more in whatever process it is that you're thinking about? You might want to just play with one of those questions at a time, but all three of them are good questions. And I encourage you to use the small questions technique that I've talked about in an earlier episode, because it will gin up all sorts of fantastic things out of your subconscious that you probably wouldn't come up with on your own. Either way, let it be easier. Be okay with easy. Hard is not necessarily better, it's just harder. So give it a whirl. Let me know how it goes. It is a process, so do not expect that making the decision to try to do things more easily is just going to happen overnight. It's going to take you some time. But I think that you will find some interesting rewards if you give it a shot. So let me know how it goes. Good luck, and I'll see you next time.